Welcome to the People's Guild.
Each week we explore the Splinterland universe with guests from all across the mythical land of Pretoria.
Join us on our journey as we discuss the evolution of the game, the strategy, the lore, and the exciting path that lies ahead.
To support the People's Guild, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts, and also check us out on PeakD, YouTube, and Twitter.
To send your questions, suggestions, and epic battles in our comments through Twitter or email at thepeoplesguildspl@gmail.com. We'll feature the best in our episodes and maybe airdrop you some prizes.
Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the People's Guild. Another week, another episode, another fantastic guest. We welcome back to the show a man we have not hosted in quite some time. I think it must have been our 100th episode celebration the last time we got to hang out with this guy. And given all things going on the team for the last 6-9 months, we've finally managed to squirrel away some time and welcome him back. So welcome back to the People's Guild, Nate. As always, good to see you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Let's get right into it. So I think it's fair to say that it's pretty common knowledge that Conclave Arcana testing is underway. I am helping kind of spearhead the community side of it. We've got a really solid crew of community testers. My buddy Jimmy included, and some of the other fantastic guests that we've hosted over the last couple of years have all set aside some time to contribute their hours to testing and delivering feedback. And man, I gotta say, I feel like Conclave Arcana from the, we got testing underway, just for some context, Saturday my time. It's now Thursday morning, so 4 or 5 days now. I've been kind of swamped with work, but the hours that I have been able to put into the game and testing and seeing what kind of new abilities and what synergies are out there, you guys have knocked it out of the park, man. It is so much fun. The level of depth and strategy that is available through these new aspects that you guys have leaned into. You guys have already revealed that racial synergy is a big piece to Conclave Arcana, and it's really cool to see how the lore, we're good buddies with Joey. Joey's a good friend of TPG. And that's credit to you guys on the creative, on the lore side, building the foundation for this stuff that's directly influencing gameplay. So there's bits and pieces across, I'm commenting on the gameplay, I'm commenting on the synergy, but also commenting on the foundation that is leaning very heavily into the foundation that you guys on the creative team have built over the years. Let's get started there. That's a huge piece I just threw at you, Nate. I just want to say awesome work thus far. I'm super stoked on what's to come with CA.
No, that's great to hear. And what's awesome is that, for the last few days, I noticed, there's a little private room set aside for the players who sign the NDA agreement and doing the testing and all that stuff. And these folks, including you guys here on this podcast, yourself and B Jangles and Fat Jimmy right here, I see you and the other testers in there. Like I could pop in at 3 a.m. my time. I could pop in at noon. There's always activity. There's always collaboration, brainstorming. If there is a dislike, I notice that it's not salty. It's like, hey, how do we make this better? If there's a problem, how do we solve it? What can we do? It's just a lot of brainstorming, and I don't know. I mean, you guys already know. You've already made an impact. We've already gone back to the drawing board on cards. One specifically comes to mind that is really, really important, and you guys had a hand in making sure.
Which one?
One of the promo
I'm
cards.
kidding. I'm just trying to get you to spill the beans there.
But
Make
so,
Jimmy, you old shit stir.
So if the players come and participate in the pre-sale that's coming up, and you say, OMG, I need, like, you experience any kind of FOMO due to the promo cards, know that the testers had a direct hand in building that excitement. And it's this mutually beneficial symbiotic relationship between the community, who are also stakeholders, because that's what the SPS governance token is about, and as stakeholders and as players of the game and as testers, you have an invested interest in making sure that it does well. And when it does do well, then everyone does well. Vonak, together we rise. And then pretty soon we got more players coming in and they're becoming stakeholders, and everyone's elevated, all because we're working together to make the game better. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty friggin' exciting to see in terms of our part in bringing this to life. I would say, I can't, I personally, unfortunately, can't take that much credit. I'll poke my head into the testing sessions internally once in a while, and rock the boat a little bit. I'll say, I don't know about this, or oh, I like that. But really, my influence has been kind of minimal. Other than, obviously the creative side of things. How do we build a cohesive narrative, a theme to the whole set that tells a story and evokes some sense of emotion, and that just feels cool, right? But even then, I'm heavily relying on people like Joey and the art team, and everyone else to kind of to bring that to life. Um, so no, that's cool. The only thing that maybe we indirectly sort of had a hand in for this specific set when it comes to the abilities and the racial synergies and all that stuff is, for those of you who participate at Splinterfest, you know that, yeah, way back then, um, we were contemplating what would that look like. We showed the card frame, the new card frame for the first time, and we showed how maybe there would be the possibility of synergy. And it's funny because when I was on the stage bringing this stuff up, I was like, ooh, am I going to get in trouble for this? That's why I had this disclaimer at the beginning of Splinterfest, like, hey guys, we're just shooting stuff at the wall, man. If this is like, hey, psst, it's like you're in a creative meeting right now. Everything's subject to change, but these are just ideas. Okay, they're ideas. And meanwhile, I have Yaba and Agrod and the rest of the board is up there at the top looking down, and I'm sensitive to the fact that they're listening to every word I say, and what is Nate talking about? And so, I'm like, these are just ideas. So when we showed that card and we showed, hey, what if we did this? And then as people seem to respond to that, people seem like, yeah, that would be a cool idea. Like, yeah. And it's funny because after Splinterfest, we went back and thought about it, and we're like, ooh, uh, I don't know if that could work as we brought it up. Because the more we thought about it, the more we looked at the world building that was involved. We looked at the sheer number of races. When a while later, months or even a year or so goes by, and then finally, Colby Tim's put in charge of game design, and he has this idea like, hey, what if we do races and stuff? And I'm like, hey, we actually had that idea back at Splinterfest. Let's talk about that. Let's share what creative had already thought about. Let me bring all that to you, and then maybe we could pass the baton. Maybe you can like do something with these ideas, right? And of course, by then, Joey then unleashes this massive spreadsheet, blah, and it has all this taxonomy of species and race and subrace, and there's like now it's morphed into what's lore.splinterlands.com, right? You can go type that URL in, and boom, you're just shotgun to the face. It's like it's actually almost overwhelming, the sheer amount of world building that the narrative team did over the past few years. The locations, the rich history, the geopolitical factions, all of it. But talk about race. So at the time when Call Me Tim was like, yeah, let's use race. At that point, creative had almost been like, well, we kind of discounted that at this point because of the number of races. The sheer number of icons we would have had to create for all of these races would have been so many that the cognitive load would have been too much. There's no way that the player, from a UX perspective, the player is not going to be able to memorize that many icons. And then the more icons we have to create for all these different races, because there's a lot of them, these icons start to bleed together. The iconography starts to become, it's hard to discern between all these icons that start to look more and more similar the more of them that you make, right? So we did have our challenges trying to get us to this point. It's like, well, how do we communicate that? Where we ended up with was, well, the art. Either the art is just that good or it's not. And if the player could glance at the artwork and just say, "Oh yeah, that's a dwarf, that's an elf, it's a werewolf, that's a Uland, it's a hippo person." Like if we're good at our jobs on the creative side, then why do you need the icons for? Maybe it becomes a non-issue. Then you just need the little trait tag underneath the name, just in case. Just in case you can't tell at a glance and you're wondering, well, kind of like Jared Scar. He's an Uland, but he has these fangs. So it's like, is he an Uland anymore? Or did he make that transformation to vampirism? Does the vampirism, change his DNA biologically to now he can't really be counted as an Uland anymore? So you have these little edge cases, right? So if you're ever confused by looking at the artwork and like, wait a minute, that's an Uland, but wait a minute, why does he have fangs? Like, what's going on? Then you can look down at the racial trait and say, oh, okay. But we're hoping that 90+% of the time, you don't even have to look at the racial trait. You can just look at it and say, oh yeah, dwarf. It has this racial synergy ability I can see. So I know that I just have to find other cards that look like dwarves and bam, 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 bam. And we're off to the races. So it worked out. I'm glad it worked out because there was a little period of time I wasn't sure that that using racial traits was going to be UX friendly, but we sorted it out.
Nate and Jimmy, I know you're chomping at the bit to get a word in, but Nate, I just want to quickly comment. You're selling yourself short in a massive way, saying that you guys may have slightly and indirectly impacted Conclave Arcana. That's complete hogwash. The racial play that is very prominent in Conclave Arcana is all credit to what you guys have built. And obviously you guys planted the seed, and that seed has grown into taxonomy and racial applications across all of the cards in all of Splinterlands, which we're almost at 4 figures now, I think. So I mean, yeah, you're definitely selling yourself short there, man.
I appreciate
awesome.
that. I just don't want to discount the efforts that I don't even come close to, and that is the support team for Splinterlands. Geez, those guys just hammered away internally before we got to the point where we could share that with the players to test. Even though there's members of the creative team that did participate in those testing sessions, support really, took point on all of that. So big kudos to them. Sets like this, we wouldn't have got to this point without all that refinement and internal testing, and then you guys, equally important. So thank you. But I also want to share the love.
It takes a village, man.
Yeah. And we all know we have one of the best support teams in the crypto space, I think.
Yeah.
Without
for sure. And not to mention, I mean, Call Me Tim's a game designer. Ulid, Melon Man, he is also equally, important to the development side of things. Typically, if Call Me Tim has an idea, or one of the testers has an idea or something like that, then half the time Melon Man's the one to say, okay, let's figure this out, and then do the development work to kind of bring it to life and figure out, well, that didn't work, but maybe this way, and that kind of thing. So for sure, yeah, a lot of people involved.
Yeah, the racial synergy is awesome. I do have to say, just seeing it in action is absolutely fantastic. It adds just such a level of depth to this game, and it really just shows you we're just scratching the surface at how deep this whole thing could go. Part of that, Jangles mentioned lore early on, just a few minutes ago, and there's been, you always see on the Discord, some people are like, oh, I don't care about lore at all, it's stupid, and other people are like, dude, the lore is awesome. I think the lore is is absolutely vital. And with the fact that you're building it as you go, with each set of cards, with each card that comes out, with each promo, with each special card, it just makes it deeper and deeper and deeper. This is content you can't just create on a whim. We're now, we're hitting now years and years and years. This will be just going deeper and deeper, and it is such an important aspect to the whole Splinterlands universe, to the whole gaming element of everything. And there are people out there who don't even know the name Splinterlands yet, who love this type of thing. Fantasy lore becomes almost a cult-like following, and we're doing a great job growing that right now, just developing that whole aspect of the game, along with the artwork. Your art, I remember you saying this a very long time ago that Splinterlands wants to. We didn't want to go into the 3D thing and look like every other game, where it looks real. There's video games now. It looks like you can't even tell from the difference between real life and a video game. And something that you have done, that Splinterlands has done, is created this incredibly unique and identifiable visual element to it, where you look at a card or you look at an artwork, you look at a landscape, and it's like, oh, that's Splinterlands. And I love that aspect of it. It kind of, it's not, Disney's the same way. You see a Disney piece of art, that's Disney. You see certain comic artists, that that person did that. And it's like, this does the same thing. And I don't think you can understate how hard that is to do and how important that is in an area like this that we're in.
No, I really no, first of all, thank you so much because it's good. The creative team loves to hear that kind of appreciation for what they do. I would say that it's funny you said some of the stuff. I know I was in a marketing meeting maybe like a month ago. Um we were we were talking to the marketing team that we were looking to contract, right? Not corrupt media. And while we were talking to them, we got on the topic of branding and just the look of the game. What and I don't think they were expecting me to come out swinging like I did. And if they're hearing this, I apologize again. for if any of my words were taken the wrong way or whatever, but I did, I wasn't heated or anything like that. I think that we were all good natured about it, but I did come out and be like, okay, before you touch the branding or the look of the game or whatever the heck we're talking about, then let's seriously take a look. Let's look at Web 2 and Web 3 competitors. Let's take a look at I mean, we've been refining this style and this brand and this stuff for 7 years now, and it wasn't in a dark room. It wasn't, just hit or miss, blindfolded, trying to just throw darts at the wall. It was very strategic from one year to the next. We would look at the competition, we would look at the industry, we would look at our demographics, at the analytics, and we make decisions based upon that, and also a vision of where it is that we wanted to go. Artistically, stylistically, what's the vision for not just at the UX of it all, the user experience? How do we want them to feel when they engage with our brand and with our ecosystem? And so, and it's funny because Matt was on the call too, so I was a little nervous because you know, I didn't want to, I want to blow up the meeting and the partnership or anything, but I did want to stand my ground a little bit and say, hey, look, I'm fine with changing stuff. I'm fine with that. Totally open-minded to it, but there has to be a good reason, and I want to know what the reasons are as we move forward. And we made the comparison. I went through. I put up like a mood board of sorts with brands and style, and so I looked at Magic the Gathering. I said, well, here's their brand. Here's their branding. Here's their logo. Here's how they represent themselves. What is it about this that you think is better? Because I think they had a symbol that's supposed to portray a hand. If you know about Magic the Gathering, it's like, but if you're a new player, you don't know what that is. Looks like a pitchfork, or it looks like there's no way to. You're looking there like I don't know how does that relate to me, as a player. And then you look at I showed a playing card, and Magic the Gathering, they're the granddaddy, right? It's like they can do but when you look at their cards, I mean,
Yeah.
they're dated. You look at the stylistic approach, you look at how they're portrayed and presented, and you look at them and you're like, I mean, looks okay, but it looks a little bland. It looks a little passive. It looks a little,
And people might like that for nostalgia.
yeah, for
When you
nostalgia.
have something, you almost kind of stick with it too. But the uniqueness is vital. We have the uniqueness.
Yeah.
And when I see other Web3 games coming out now, many of them have a similarity. Many of them you could tell, oh, they're using AI. And well, that looks kind of cool at first. And then you're like, oh, everyone's doing the same thing now. And it's
Exactly.
becomes boring and it becomes blasé. And all of a sudden it's not unique. And I just really think Splinterlands knocked it out of the park with
Well, I
that.
appreciate that.
And I have a question.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's
Oh, so
go keep
okay,
going.
because I remember, if I'm remembering correctly, Matt and Aggie got together, and Aggroed had the art for the alpha set on a shelf, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly. Was that the characters only, or was that characters and borders? And when did you jump in? And when was what was your first like art thing that became Splinter? Was it a character? Was it a cardboarder like beta?
So when I got brought on board, of course, it was before the launch of anything. And they said, okay, well here's the art we got off this guy off of Fiverr or whatever. And I'm looking, I'm like, well, all right, kid, do we have to use it? And they're like, well, this is what we got. This is what we're going with. And so like, okay, what do you need from me? They're like, okay, well, we want to see these little symbols. And I'm like, yeah, I see the symbols. Can we redo the symbols? Matt was like, all right, fine. If you want to redo the symbols. So I'm trying to think. Yeah, I redid the symbols before we launched the game, I think. So I redid the little elemental icons. And then he's like, and I've been thinking about it, Nate, and I want to add a new one called Dragon. And I also want there to be gold foils. So if you can take the frames and artwork that I'm showing you and create a new one for Dragon and also show me what these things would look like as gold foils. And then he's like, yeah, and you can go ahead and change the icons and stuff like that. So it was basic, straightforward, like graphic design work to start. And I was like, okay. And I would rearrange and do all that stuff. But back then, I was chomping at the bit to like, let me redesign this stuff. Let me do something different. And then by the time we got to beta, Matt still had a very strong, yeah, a firm hand on like what he wanted. So he said, "Look, I want a new card frame, the new set." And I'm like, "All right, let me design out a new card frame." Um, and so I went in Adobe Illustrator or whatever. I made the beta card frame that you guys are familiar with, and then I try to readjust, the artwork in those frames and blah blah blah, and said, see, okay, this is a little bit better, right? But it was still his hand on it saying what he wanted. I kind of want the frame to be sort of like this, and he had some thoughts and ideas, and I try to translate his thoughts and ideas into something that we could both be happy with. Um, but I would say after beta, the hand wasn't quite as firm. He started trusting me more and more, and over the years since. And at this point, like he often says in the town hall, it's the first time he's seeing stuff along with the players because he gives me that much latitude. Like we've known each other long enough to where he just wants to make sure I understand when the deadlines are. And as long as I know when the deadlines are, he pretty much trusts creative to do whatever the heck we're going to do. Let us cook. And he's been so awesome in just kind of like getting out of the way and letting us do what we're going to do so that, by the time we're passing UI specs or art assets or whatever to engineering, then it's like, yeah, whatever creative is handing over is probably good. He's happy with the production quality, and he's like, yeah, keep going. So that's cool. I like the working relationship that we have.
I want to ask you, Nate, is there, and to Jimmy's points, if you look at the artwork over the years, there is a very clear evolution, right? Like I personally, I love the alpha, the nostalgia you guys were talking about, that kind of look and feel that Magic the Gathering still ticks for folks. And alpha does that for me too, despite me not ever being here. But I have had the privilege of joining a few alpha tournaments, and it's just such a different aesthetic, and it almost feels like you're not playing a card game from 7 years ago. You're playing a card game from, somewhere in the mid 90s, probably.
Yeah.
Just yeah, the feel is just so cool. But over the years since, you guys have really refined your style. And yeah, I just want to acknowledge once again, kudos to the creative team and to you for kind of leading this evolution from the top of the artwork and the feel. And I think it's such a cool concept to have your artwork at a point to which you do not need the icons for the races. If your artwork is so on point that at a glance, I can tell, oh, this is an orc, this is an elf, this is an Uland, this is et cetera, et cetera. That speaks volumes to the talent that you guys have on your squad, and I feel like you guys are there. You've achieved it. I don't really have, as obviously having an advanced look at Conclave Arcana. I don't feel like there's many cards that I have to go back and take a second glance and double check the race. It's the artwork is part of that is the artwork is now more prominent than it has been in, say like Chaos Legion. Um, but also the refinement of the art style that you guys have been putting together over the years. So before we move forward, I just want to quickly acknowledge that also, and I want to ask you: is there without any of your art designers that listen will know exactly who you're talking about, but is there a particular card artwork that you easily say, oh man, this is my absolute favorite, knocked it out of the park, it ticks all of the boxes for me? Is there one piece of artwork that in particular is your clear favorite of kind of embodying the Splinterlands look and feel, and it's the picture of perfection for you?
Um, Crap. There has been so many characters made where I look and I'm like, freaking hell, this is this is the type of artwork that makes me want to know who is this character. He's cool or she's cool, and I want the card just because that. And when we can evoke that sense of emotion to where IP is really driving the bus, which we're nowhere close to that yet, like nowhere close. But once we do unlock that aspect of things, where people want to collect the cards and get certain cards because of IP and because of the emotional attachment they have to any particular character or whoever they identify with, that's wow, that's a whole new level. But to answer your question, I mean, Commander Slade looks pretty freaking sweet. Um, I would say the most recent example of trying to, and this is where I get really excited, is blending, properly blending stats and abilities with artwork, which doesn't, we haven't had the most, we haven't been in a position to really, really just uncuff ourselves. We've kind of been a lot of the artwork you see is sometimes where the art team has both hands cupped behind their back and a little bit blindfolded because sometimes we're working under extreme deadlines where the like even right now we have the testing is resulting in changes, which is resulting in, okay, is the artwork going to match the stats and abilities anymore, or did it to begin with? Um, like, how do we make sure that there is this relationship between what you see mechanically and what the character is portraying art-wise and what their narrative, what their backstory is all about? Like, ultimately, ideally, it would all blend cohesively together as one package. And I'm really excited at the Kellen Gaines promo card because we were able to do that with that card where Blaze, our marketing guy, and Royal Eagle from support. We're trying to take the lift off of. You have Call Me Tim, who's freaking the heck out because he has all these cards he's trying to balance. Um, and due to our leveling mechanics, he likes to say, as I'm sure you guys are all aware, it's not just like 100 cards trying to balance. It's like 400 cards you're trying to balance. It's like you're trying to you have all these different levels of gameplay that all have to be balanced. So it's not like, it's a lot more challenging than a typical card game, right? So he's, under extreme duress. So they went and said, hey, let's take this off your plate. They created the stats and abilities, and then they handed that over to creative, and we said, okay, how can we make this guy match the stats and abilities? Well, he attacks twice. Let's have him attack with both hands. He has this much health. Let's make him very fit, like a Captain America. Like, okay, he's muscular because that explains his health. He's fast, so he should look nimble. So we put him in a jumping position to show his speed and nimbleness. And we looked at his abilities, and we tried very hard to go ahead and say, okay, here's the stats and abilities. How can we portray this? And then Joey made a great story that bridges Rebellion to Conclave. This character is very plays a critical role in the story that leads up to Conclave. Who he is and what his actions and who he reports to and what he represents. So for those of you who want to dig into his lore, it'll give you some clues as to the upcoming set. And so that's when all the pieces kind of fell together, and I love to see that happen. I love it because that's what I want for every single character. Sometimes people say, hey, this has flying, but the thing has no wings, or vice versa, or it doesn't. There's this disconnect, and that happens because sometimes creative just doesn't have enough time to like get the perfect art made, and sometimes we have to like say, well, we made this art, the stats and abilities changed during testing, and now they don't quite match. Do we have enough time? Crap, no. All right, let's fix it in the lore. In the lore tab, we'll explain it somehow. And so sometimes that happens, but I'm actually pretty excited since Dave McCoy came on as Chief Operating Officer, as COO. When he came on, I had a meeting with him, and he told me, Nate, as far as I'm concerned, the most important thing is IP. I'm like, thank God. Like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, I'm not just saying that. I believe that. I'm like, heck yeah, digital high five, let's go. Because essentially, as far as I'm concerned, it's like, yes, we're a Web3 game. Yes, we're a trading card game. Yes, we're a collectible game. Yes, there's all these aspects involved in what Splinterlands represents, what it is. But at the end of the day, if we're able to be, if creative can be uncuffed, and we can just like sink our teeth into the game that we really want to. And if you think, well, what have you been doing for the last 7 years? No, you don't understand. We haven't been unleashed in the 7 years, not even close. Whatever production quality that you see is mostly whatever we could squeeze in the deadline we're given. So they say, hey, here's the deadline. Utilize whatever time and resources you have to make that look as good as you can, and blah, blah, blah. But we've never been really driving the bus, And when Dave came on and he told me, hey, IP is the most important thing, I was like, hallelujah. Because, technology changes. It evolves. 5-10 years from now, hopefully blockchain and Web3 is just better and better and whatever. But, for those of you who've been around the block, we know that, like, hey, whatever big, huge, awesome technology we thought was great today could change dramatically in a few years, right? And then same thing with card games or whatever. It's kind of like Spider-Man started off as a comic book, and then now he's in how many games? Maybe some of them are card games like Marvel Snap. Some of them are RPG type, first person, whatever. Other games are, there's a million games of Spider-Man. But the thing is, the IP is it's not stuck to the technology. It's not stuck to any one platform. It's not even stuck to the media. You might find Spider-Man in a cartoon. You might find him in a movie. You might find him in a TV show. He's not stuck to the merchandise like t-shirts and hats or whatever. It's an idea. It's a concept. And the more we lean into it, the more we lean into our world building, and the more that we can create um, what I'm hoping to achieve with Splinterlands, which is a soulful experience, right? Um, I think that it's a little bit lacking right now, and a lot of people don't really care. And the reason they don't care about having a soulful experience, think about your favorite game of all time, the one where you're like, it literally, um, it's like that movie Inside Out, that Pixar movie where you create a core memory, right, with a video game. And that could be World of Warcraft or EverQuest, or it could be like Legends of Zelda or Final Fantasy. I don't know, whatever floats your boat, right? But if you're a gamer and you're truly inspired by games and you love gaming, then you could probably think of a memory where you had a core memory and that soulful experience that came from whatever game it was, right? Um, that's what I want for Splinterlands. I want people to have those experiences. And right now, people, Nate, we don't need that. It's because you haven't experienced it yet. Once you've experienced it in Splinterlands, it's like you won't be able to live without it. It'll be like, and what's great is whether people realize it or not. In fact, Jimmy, you're recognizing it, you're seeing it, all the world building, all the lore, all the racial taxonomy, all the geopolitical splinter factions, all the stuff that's kind of like been growing behind the scenes. Then Dave comes on board and says, you know what? This is the most important thing. Holy crap. I feel like the future is really freaking bright. If you guys think you're excited about the mental stimulation that comes from a card game, oh man, you haven't seen anything yet. I think once we've unlocked that part of things, that yeah, we're truly going to be elevating accounts to users, from users to players, and from players who really identify as a battle mage. They're screaming Vonak in social media. They're getting tattoos. We already see it happening a little bit, and we haven't even opened the floodgates on
Is
that
that
soulful
tattoo real?
experience.
Is that tattoo real? I saw that on someone's profile picture in
I
the
mean,
testing.
it looked
Yes.
real, but in
Yeah,
this
it's
day and
real.
age, who knows?
It's
It's a
real.
tattoo that says Vonak with the Splinterlands logo underneath.
Yep,
It's
it's real.
insane. That's
He
awesome.
he was
That's
in
what,
he was
number 3?
he's one of the testers. He was in voice chat and I confirmed that it was real. That was the first thing I asked
Nice.
him.
That's amazing. He should
Yeah.
get a Rebellion pack for free for that.
Oh,
At
more than
least.
that. I mean, geez.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Nate,
Yeah.
I love your ambition for the game. And I say the term game, I think that doesn't do justice for what you see in the future with this thing. You've got a vision for this thing to go to the moon. And if for anybody out there who's listened to the last handful of episodes, you guys know that we're big fans of Dave McCoy, and I think privately and publicly I've been celebrating the hiring of Dave, and I think it's reassuring to know that celebration is going on internally as well, because I think one of the things that I've admired about Dave is his ability to apply the structure. He can put in the structure and help us build the ladder systematically to achieve climbing to the moon and reaching your goals of whether it's Silas of the Rift, right? He's that Spider-Man for Splinterlands, just as an example. There's a couple of characters that I think might fit that bill for who is transient enough and big enough of a Splinterlands character to see on lunchboxes one day and grace the cover of some tabletop board games, and hang on keychains, like all of that sort of stuff. Once we enter like pop culture, the sky's the limit.
No, for
So
sure.
yeah, so I love that ambition. I think Dave is a perfect complement to helping you kind of and us collectively achieve that goal. And I want to circle back to one of the comments you made about creative kind of having to work under the gun a little bit and achieve deadlines, and therefore there's not quite the level of cohesion between artwork and card design that you would like. And this is something that I've been calling for a long time, is I really want to see Splinterlands have, and to the team's credit, we've gotten much better about it. You guys have, and it's the proof is in the pudding with Conclave Arcana. But I would love to see, maybe this summer we're already testing future sets of cards and giving you guys, a year of runway to have that flexibility to really nail down the look and the feel to match the cards and that sort of stuff. So uh structurally, and this kind of goes back to what you were mentioning about you're pretty much off the leash now in terms of guidance and leadership from a directional perspective. When you guys are looking at responsibilities and tasks that kind of lie ahead, how are you guys as the creative team determining priority? Because I feel like there's so many different pieces where you guys can make an impact. What does the thought process look like on your side, Nate, when you're looking at, okay, this is what we got to knock out over the course of the next 18 months, 12 months. This is how we are determining priority, and this is why. So I hope I'm not putting you on the spot there, but I'd love to kind of hear how, what does that thought process look like on your side when you're going through determining this is going to make the biggest waves, therefore we should, this is priority numero uno.
No, that's definitely a good question. So I would say the really big stuff, it's not up to me. That's a Matt call. Um, typically maybe like, let's say every quarter we come together as a team, we say, hey, here we all champion what we think is the most important thing to work on next. We also collect all the data and feedback from the community and say, well, this is what the community thinks is the most important thing. And then we try to come to terms with it. Um, at the end of the day, though, it's really Matt's call to say, well, okay, well, I've heard everyone's piece. I understand, blah blah blah. We could even vote on it, but at the end of the day, Matt's the one who's going to make that call. It's like, well, okay, for the next quarter, these are the priorities. This is what we're going to work on. Sometimes we get thrown for a loop. Sometimes, like more recently, Blaze and Dave, newly on the team. You get those guys in the room together, and it's like, oh, there's loud voices, there's lights going on. What are those noises? Fireworks going on. What's going on in there? And then they come out and like, we know what we're gonna do next. And we're like, what? You can't throw something new at us. But yeah, as Blaze has already mentioned already, there's gonna be a new foil type. They thought that was important. That was very important to Dave as well. And so, when they first brought it to me and creative, was like, we got a lot going on. Are you guys insane? Like, you're gonna throw this in now? Like, we don't have time to properly prepare this or figure this out or whatever. And then Dave being Dave, it's like, well, if there's a problem, then we solve it. What's the next step to solving this problem? Because this is important. So, that's where Dave kind of like, threw down and said, all right, well, I'm making this a priority. And then, of course, Matt makes things a priority. Now, again, I said like, well, there's a lot of things though. Once the priority is set, then creative was like, okay, what's our deadlines? Here's the deadlines, and then we could work, you know, you know, then you got the day-to-day operation stuff. And that's where, I take a look at things and be like, okay, I partner up with our creative coordinator, Alfredo. We're looking at our project management boards. We look at timetables and calendar and our resources and team members and contractors and say, all right, well, let's figure this out. What makes the most sense? And we, move things around and we just figure out priorities in a kind of in a boring sense. What's our production rate on character art and how many characters do we got to do, and let's do the math and figure out how many we got to do per per day or per week or whatever? Are we going to be doing glamours now? Are we going to do all the characters first and then come back and do the glamour skins afterwards? Like, once we launch, or like, how are we going to do this? So, we have those discussions. I will say that if time permits, if something that I tell all the creative team members is I want them to wake up in the morning passionate about what they do. I don't want them to, yes, all of us are going to, it's a job. All of us at some point are going to have to do something that is just a task that needs to get done. But I never want them to lose that passion. And so I've told all of them, and sometimes I got to remind them, hey, look, number one, if there's something you feel really passionate about, and this could be an idea, this could be a proposal, this could be whatever, then you have my permission to work on it on the side so that every time you feel like you're hitting a brick wall or you're feeling tired or you just feel burned out on the tasks in front of you, then I give you permission to step away for a moment and work on the thing that just brings a smile to your face, that makes you like, that gives you joy, right? And then work on that a little bit. And then come back to the other stuff. And then maybe the thing that brings them joy is not ever discussed in a team meeting. It's not a big priority. But it's a little seed that they water from time to time. And when it grows just big enough to bring to me for review, I'll look at it and be like, whoa, this is amazing. This is only something that could be born out of love. This can't be, this doesn't originate from a spreadsheet or a business objective or some need on some timetable or whatever. This wasn't, calculated. This was nurtured. This was loved. And sometimes, when I see an idea like that, sometimes it comes to life. Tyler, our UI designer, loves to go off on these little side projects. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing? But he meets his deadlines, and then once in a while he comes and says, look at this. It's kind of like, look, mom and dad, look what I did. And then I look at him like, holy crap, that's pretty freaking cool. Let's get that in there. Let's slot that in. I mean, he did that recently. I'm trying to think of what I should say and shouldn't say.
Everything.
Say it all. Say it all.
he did he did something recently that was like, yeah, it wasn't his job responsibility to do, but he went off into the woods. He came back. He was like, look at this. I'm like, whoa, we got to use that. And you guys are going to see that pretty soon, as early as what's being introduced in the pre-sale and stuff. So there's moments like that, and they're not necessarily prioritized in an official sense. But until Matt comes and tells me, Nate, stop doing that, then, I think it's important. And that's how I run the creative side of things, is I allow for things like that. And then, and then if the idea gets swatted down, if we're like, oh, this is amazing, let's show Matt or let's show Dave or let's whatever. And they're like, what are you guys doing? Stop that. Then we're like, oh, all right. But more times than not, typically the worst case that could happen is that not that it's rejected. It's that it just has to sit on the shelf until the time and resources become available to implement the thing that's sitting on the shelf. So I don't think I've ever actually been told, no, we are never, ever going to do that, throw it away. So, so that's good. That it's a nice culture. It's a good company environment to work in.
Well, at the end of the day, you guys are creatives, right? Like the best creativity is flexed from a place of passion, and I love that you're encouraging your team to pursue those passions, especially if things are feeling particularly arduous or stressful, or holy shit, we're under the gun, we got to deliver a full set of cards in the next 2 weeks, artwork wise. Push pause, step away from your desk, and just mull over something that you're passionate about. And it just so happens that, and we've talked about this time and time again on the People's Guild, the level of of passion and dedication to the game from all elements, like whether you're talking about you or Dave or Matt or Royal Eagle or guys like Jimmy and I and other community members, and we're all equally contributing our own piece to this giant puzzle. And the fact that we continue to hear personal anecdotes of how this is reflected on the team side, it just always boggles my mind, man. And Jimmy, you say the best support team on in Web3. I'll say the coolest community in any sort of company culture I've ever been a part of. It is really freaking cool, man, and it's so fun to be a part of. And the community getting a chance to be intimately involved with the Conclave Arcana design through this testing stuff is just the icing on the cake. It's one step further in a very cool direction, and I hope that we continue to kind of see these these projects of passion be pursued to the end, and get it, give creative folks the runway to pursue whatever it is that they feel like is going to be impactful and meaningful, and shift the needle for folks and get out of their way and look at the prototype on the other side, and then we can make a decision. I love the fact that you've been, the fact that you can say, with maybe a very small percentage of doubt, that you have never been told we will never introduce this into the game. That is so cool. Like, that's such a long-term perspective. We're looking at the bigger picture. Who knows where we're going to be in 5, 10, 20 years? All of this stuff could eventually, reach into the game, and we'll see, whether it's this or it's an iteration of this, the ripples will eventually be felt. And I'm all about that pursuit of passion. I think it's so cool, man. So thank you for
Oh, yeah,
sharing, Nate.
oh, no
Mhm.
problem.
Yeah, it seems to be at the core of everything. At this whole Splinterlands thing is passion, just from its conception. The enthusiasm for blockchain and gaming and the merging of the two, and it's just set gone onward from there. Um, and all the new things coming, like the black foil, has me really excited just hearing about that. Like I was involved during the last bull run, other Web3 games and pack projects were very prominent. A lot of them on wax and stuff, and chasing these foils and these chaser cards and these super rare cards. That literally drove sales for some of these projects that didn't have anything besides packs with stuff in them. There was like promise of a
Yeah.
game, or we're going to do this stuff, and people were spending all this money just trying to find those cards. I really think it's going to drive sales. I'm excited about it. Um, do you guys? Okay, so every time like when a legendary card opens, there's this special pizzazz that happens, the shake, and then the stuff. Are you guys taking that a step further for the black foil?
It's
And
a
are there explosions? That's your real
Are
question,
there
Jimmy. Get out of
or
here.
how many explosions, I should say?
all
Yes.
right. So first thing is that so even though Blaze and Dave came out of left field and threw me for a loop with the whole foil thing, I will say they've been a great sport in, again, giving creative the latitude to do it how we want to do it. Um, a lot
Black.
of card games, you know, I'm trying to be careful on what I say or don't say. I will say that where the foil type is concerned, I didn't want it to be portrayed like a typical it's just it's like a digital hologram, or it's just shiny, or it's just whatever. Like I didn't want it portrayed like that. I wanted very much for the if we're going to do it, if we're going to do it, let's do it right. And what I mean by right, do it the Splinterlands way. I am I am one of those creatives who just I, I I want our brand and I want our game to be as distinctive and as unique and as recognizable as possible. I don't like blending in. I don't like being white noise. I don't want if we're gonna make a full type, I don't want it to be like like all the other card games. whether it's sports NFTs or regular NFTs or games or whatever, they all have their different foil types and whatever. No, this is Splinterlands. What does that mean? That means that you're not sitting at a table playing cards, you know. You are a freaking battle mage using enchanted cards in an arena in participating in these combat games. And so what does that mean for the card? And so, I'll let your imagination run wild, but I'm very pleased that they didn't like force us to do what everyone else did. We were able to put our own spin on what does that mean? What is that going to look like? And can we inject a sense of world building and lore and flavor? Can we make the player feel more like a battle mage? And above all, can they look at it and be like, "Holy crap, that's cool!" Like it's not just like, "Oh, okay, it looks different or it looks bad." No, I want them to like look at it and be like, "Whoa, I want that just for the cosmetic." Even if there's like no other utility, which just the cosmetic alone, it could stand on its own and be desirable. I think that that was our goal, and I think that was achieved. When I look at it, maybe it's a biased opinion, but when I look at what was produced, I'm like, I need that. Like I'm FOMOing myself by the output of what creative was able to do. So big props off to Alfredo. He did a lot of our creative coordinator. He did the vector work for the frame stuff, and then other team members participated in other aspects of bringing that to bear. So there was actually multiple team members and developers and stuff ready to make this feel as special as possible. And it does look special. It's going to be freaking awesome. Now, I'm pretty sure that all I did was answer the first part. What was the second part? What did you ask me?
Explosions.
Well, I'll
Oh,
explode. Well,
oh
yeah.
yeah.
Well, let me
Oh,
ask while we're on this. Can I ask how much more black can this be?
how much what?
How much more black can this be? And
How
the
much more?
answer is the
None more
answer
black.
is none more black.
Oh, well, then that's the answer. Um, None more black. Um, so what I will say as far as how other ways to make this feel special, we did have internal team meeting about like the card flip experience. Like, what are we going to do? Are we going to give it a different card back so that when you see the cards on the screen, you already know, whoa, that one's different, and you don't even have to hover over it? Do you make it so that when you hover over it, it goes from the regular card back and it transforms into the alternate card back? And you're like, whoa. Do we have it do the typical rumble, the little shaky stuff? Do we have it do anything different or special? We're still figuring that out, but we have had discussions about it, and we do want to do something. It's just like we're juggling so much stuff still, trying to get ready for this launch. Um, that is crazy, but it is on the list. It is on the to-do list, and so
I will vote for explosions. I want to see an explosion. You flip that black foil and
yeah.
you explode into a whole new dimension.
And on top, you know what? I'll do you one more higher.
Yes.
What I'd
Two
really want to
explosions.
do is when the card hits the battlefield, if you have this new black foil that the cards appear, boom, 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 but then the black foil just like some cool animation, right? Just to present itself, like here I am.
That sound,
Uh,
that sound when like something really heavy slams down, like
yeah, yeah.
that echo, that like bam, you flip that black foil, and it's like, and on the battlefield, when it comes out.
Speaking of the BAM, um, I don't think I've ever shared this with anybody publicly. Um, but in internally, I mean, we do have um, creative assets that have yet to be introduced, even though they're ready and sitting on the shelf. This one in particular has been sitting on the shelf for a while, and the prerequisite to getting it out there was to get the redesign of the battle screens done, which has already happened now. So when you're you got the new waiting for opponent screen, which I think looks pretty cool. I think the new match found, so where you see your opponent and you see the battle rules and all that. You'll notice that the background art to that is this zoomed out, um, looks like an aerial view of an arena. Um, and then when you finally get into the tactic stage and later in the battle, you do see the zoomed in version of that arena. So I don't know if anyone's noticed that, but in the so yeah, in match found, you see the zoomed out, and then when you go do the battle, it's zoomed in. We have this such a cool animation that our animation team did. Benham, our main animator, made it so that he took the zoomed out version, and you see this energy sparkling. You see the trees swaying in the wind. You see the dragon teeth in the middle, and you see these little Doctor Strange type runes flickering to life, right? And then suddenly, zoom, bam, and you see a cloud of dust, and you see that bam thing that you just talked about. And then boom, it transitions right into the battlefield. It's like I can't wait for you guys to see that. That's waiting to be implemented. I just want to see more of those kind of cutscene transitions, those kind of animations, those kind of things that really bring the Splinterlands world to life and make you feel less like you're this disconnected person at a computer screen playing a card game and more like a battle mage who's just entered the arena and the crowd is cheering. That's what I want you to feel. And so we're getting, one step closer, every time we make an update.
Mhm. I just had the idea when you said more of like a battle mage in an arena. Do you recall at Splinterfest when I think we talked about this last episode? I'm sorry to bring it up again. There was a moment when the tournament was going on the big screen, and Junokio got like it was like the match would have been won if this guy got one more attack in, and his card got stunned like 4 times in a row. And every time it happened, it was like stun, and there was like ooh, from the crowd. And then the second time, like oh, and then like the third time it happened, there was just this like oh. Incorporating that type of audience noise into the battles while they're happening live. Like if some crazy thing happens, that there's such a small chance of just hearing this background, like the crowd
Yeah.
roaring or something.
No, I like the idea so much that I will literally, see if Asari can come up with the sound effects for that. I mean, she already did some crowd effects when you hit a new league tier, and it says, "Oh, the badge changes and unlocks," and you hear some of the crowd cheering or whatever.
Mhm.
So I'm sure she has a library of sound effects or whatever that where we can kind of get that done. Because I agree, I think that would be freaking cool.
Right on.
Something.
Leagues. Oh no, go Jangles.
No, let's go there. Let's talk about it. Bring it up.
We were talking about that in Discord. Um, I think level caps would be a better way to describe it. And you kind of outlined this really cool vision of how you see leagues, levels, difficulties. Do you care to talk about that at all? I really liked what you threw down on that. Um,
Um, I'll be honest, that was very off the cuff and organic. I started off um, where there's another Fat Jimmy post in Discord. I'm like, this guy, come on, Fat Jimmy, blah 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 blah. So I'm typing, and I'm thinking like, Fat Jimmy, come on, it's PvP, it's competitive, it's intended to be hardcore, and stop trying to coddle these players. If they want a freaking safety place to be all warm and fuzzy and Care Bear, then they can go play in campaign mode, or they can go play over here. Or hey, the tournaments and brawls, they're kind of got the difficulty, tiers already set up, and go over there. Leave PvP alone. But about halfway through my post, uh, I'm like, I'm typing, and I'm like, well, okay, but what if we did try to? Okay, let's look at this as a UX problem. So I'm typing, and while I'm typing to you, I'm thinking it through in my head. I'm like, let's look at this as a UX problem. How would I solve it? And then while I'm typing on you, as I'm typing, I'm literally typing out well, I guess I would do this, and then I would do that, and like I really just did it on the fly. I'll be honest.
Mhm.
And by the time I was done, um, you 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 almost you convinced me without convincing me. You convinced me that it was solvable because I was trying to formulate an answer to you. So, and then after I was done typing, and then we went back and forth a little bit more on trying to clarify what you meant and what I meant. By the end of that discussion, I was like, huh, um, yeah, I mean, I guess there's a few kinks to work out, but I don't, I didn't really see any, I couldn't think of any reason why that wouldn't work. Like,
Right. And
why couldn't we do
right.
that? So, um, so yeah, I've been so busy. I haven't been able to really think about it much since that Discord discussion, which happened in that was in was that in the collectors chat? Is that the card
I
collectors
can't
chat?
even remember because there's so many
Yeah.
times I'll be like, I want to bring up a topic and I'm not sure which room fits
Yeah,
because there's no
it
like
was
maps
card
anymore.
collectors chat.
Throw it
It was
in.
card
Oh,
collectors
that
chat.
was that was a perfect room to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
card collectors,
Right.
So I will say, when I look at the problem of the caps, and I could appreciate and understand it. I think that yes, if we had four difficulty levels to each format, so if you had adept, intermediate, all the way up to expert or whatever for modern, and you did the same thing for wild and maybe even survival. Who knows? I mean, it's a, I don't. I'm not sure if it applies. Well, why not? I don't know. I haven't thought it all the way through, but definitely for at least wild and modern, I think that that I see that it solves what you're concerned about, and it also solves what I'm concerned about. And I think it comes down to like I think you mentioned, I think you tagged Royal Eagle. You're like, all right, next step, liquidity bots. How do we make sure there's enough liquidity? Let's go. Um, and I'm like, I don't know. Do you even need liquidity because we already have the same number of players and they're already playing each other. We're just putting them in these different difficulty rooms. So do we even need liquidity? I don't know. As long as you go in the back end and you expand it out to where, okay, well, if there's bronze, silver, gold, whatever for each difficulty, then yeah, players are more spread out so that you would theoretically need to change the back end coding to allow for, well, it's not, you can be paired up with almost anyone, but here, try to pair up with someone who's 100 ratings away from you. Okay, nope, can't find anyone in the first 10 seconds. All right, let's expand that out to plus or minus 500 rating. Nope, still can't find a match. Okay, 10 seconds go by, the system increases it until finally, a minute or two later, you find somebody, but the system first tries to find who you should be paired with. That makes the most sense. You could do it that way. The second way you could do it, of course, is yeah, add more liquidity bots, whether it's necessary or not, I don't know. Um, but let's say you did. Um, I've always been of the opinion that uh, you know that you sh- that bots are fine. You can have bots, but all the salt and all the conflict stems from the fact that you're sticking um, bot people in with manual people in the same reward pool. And I think that's an easy fix as far as I'm concerned. I think that as long as you treated bot owners as contractors to the company providing a service, then suddenly everyone's perception changes. Now, instead of
Yeah. Or
being,
liquidity bots don't get paid. Liquidity bots provided by the company don't get the reward. If a
yeah,
bot wins the match,
they're
it draws the
contractors
hero.
providing a
Yeah.
service, so they get something, but it's not coming out of the reward pool. Not the same reward
Right.
pool that the players are earning from. So
Right.
so it changes things fundamentally to where you are resenting bots to suddenly you're thankful that they're providing the service for you. Suddenly there's a
Right.
synergistic relationship to where
Hmm.
these guys are servicing the people who are interested in entertainment and fun and enjoyment. And then
Right. Providing the
and
necessary
yeah,
liquidity and
it's
stuff.
it's
Yeah.
a mutually
And-
beneficial relationship
mhm.
then. And then on top of that, if they're being contracted by the company gets to set the parameters. They can say, okay, we need 20 liquidity bots capable of this in gold, and we need this many, and we check the list of who's whitelisted or approved by the company to provide these services, and we say, okay, get in there. And then they all
Right.
flood
Yeah.
in there.
You
And
got
then,
some in bronze that throw matches, some in bronze that are good, that whole
yeah,
thing there.
yeah.
One thing I do want to point out, though, because this is a fundamental concept of the whole thing of league levels, and because I think Vedev was a little misconstrued it as well. We're not looking for a safe place for anybody. Ranked should be bloodthirsty competition. But what I see as the league levels do is allow fair competition. For example, if bronze is kindergarten, I want to see those kindergartners fight to the death. I want to see them tearing each other's freaking hair out and kicking each other in the ribs and stuff. And I want one winner to come out on top of that leaderboard. What I don't want is you throw a high school kid into that ring and just crush all of them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I want that bloodthirsty competition, but at different tiers, which represent, different levels of investment, because we're going to be doing more free to play. Free to play, I think, is absolutely essential for hooking people, luring people in, and showing them how awesome this whole thing is. But yeah, it would be amazing to have 100,000 free to play players. We want to get as many of them as possible and convert them into paying players. And we're not going to do that by assuming, well, you got to do that only at the top. We want to do that at every level, every step of the way. Some guy comes in like Vugdis and says, hey, I'm going to drop 20 grand on this set and I want to jump to champ. Awesome. Let them do that. But we also want those little guys who say, hey, I got $50. I like this game. Let me start to see what it's like to play ranked and to earn. And I want to fight in bronze,
Yeah.
But bloodthirsty competition is definitely at the core of this.
No, that's
But
great.
it's
And
fair. Yeah.
yeah. And I think a lot of our or missing each other's points is just semantics. I think that
Yeah, leagues. I don't think anyone wants leagues. I don't know anyone who wants leagues back exactly as they were. I don't know a single person in this whole community that wants leagues back the way they were, myself included.
yeah, I think what I like most about treating it as because it equates to the same thing: difficulty level versus investment level, and they equate to the same thing. But you're looking at someone who's interested in the UX of it. Like, I don't want it centered on how much money I'm putting in. I want it, hey, I want to be at black belt level, or I want to be at brown belt, or I want to be at white belt. I want to, like what you said, fair competition. And so, yes, if I want to play at black belt level, well, I do have to put more money into it, but I don't want to be that overt about it. I don't want the messaging in
Well,
the
that's where that low
UI.
level comes in. You say,
Yeah,
hey, you can compete. You only got this much to put in. Come on in. You're welcome. Try it out. And we have seen over the years people literally start with almost nothing or nothing and
yeah,
work their way up to champion by going through bronze and building and saving and buying a card at a time. All of a sudden they have a silver deck. And then we've watched that progression with some people, and it's amazing to see that happen. And I want to see more of that personally, because I think allowing as many people in at that low level is like, all right, come on in. You got a couple bucks, you're in. Let's
yeah,
see you
yeah.
fight to the death. Let's go.
No, but I mean, as long as we make it so players could jump between difficulty levels on a whim,
Yeah, love
so
that idea.
there's always the incentive to, I want to combine copies of the card and I immediately get the benefit of that. Or I want to throw down $1,000 today because I just am that excited that I can immediately jump to the next difficulty level. I
Mhm.
don't have to wait till the end of the season. I don't have to be stuck where I'm at. I can just have that flexibility to go up or down in difficulty
Yeah,
on the
yeah. I
fly.
want to see a guy
So
throw that in. Some guy say, "I'm dropping 100 grand into Splinterlands, and I want to just play it champ right out of the gates." Yes,
yeah,
yes, I
yeah.
want to see that as well.
So
Something
yeah, I
else that
think
you
we're
were you were talking about as an interesting byproduct, Nate, is I don't know if it was in that discussion or if it was elsewhere, but you were saying something to the effect of, if I choose, and I'm going to butcher the difficulty levels, but I think adept was the lowest level. Is that right?
I think that sounds right. Yeah, it's basically the same difficulty levels that already exist for tournaments.
Right.
Or
Okay.
for challenge mode, you choose, hey, where do I want the level caps to be? And there's a name for each of those different level caps.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it goes
So
from adept to expert, right?
I think that's right. Yeah. So if I select adept as my chosen difficulty level, how does the entirety of the game reflect me viewing the game through the lens of an adept player? So for example, if I go to my card collection page, my difficulty level is selected on by default adept. I'm going to see all of my cards relative to the adept level. We were talking about, the Conclave Arcana stuff off air a little bit, and talking about, trying to have the objective big picture view of, what does balancing look like at each of the relative difficulty levels. It would be really cool if I could go into my card collection and there's a drop down of, I can select adept. And at a
No, I
glance,
agree. Yeah.
I can see all the cards with their respective abilities at adept. And then, as a player, let's zoom back 3 years to when I first started. I can select each respective difficulty level and see at what point do my cards unlock that next ability. You know what I mean? And I can watch the growth at a collection level, at a cohesive level, versus having to click into each individual card, go into stats, and then, the breakdown is great, but the high level view is really, really cool. And something that I think is really critical. And Jimmy, I know this is one of your big talking points. When I first started, I had every intention of playing at silver, and that was, kind of matched the level to which I was willing to wade into the pool. Well, I needless to say, I quickly jumped into the deep end, but on my route to achieving that deep end, or being able to swim in that deep end, I was gradually leveling up my deck. And I would pick particular cards. At the time it was Chaos Legion, so I went really heavy on the water cards, for example. So being able to, if I move a good chunk of my deck from silver to gold level, I should therefore be able to, at the drop of a pin, I should be able to switch from intermediate to advanced and test, how far will this deck take me now that I have invested enough to achieve the gold level on my water cards. And okay, well, wow, I'm way above my head. I need to go back to intermediate and look at some different synergies, because the thing that I love about the league caps, and you still see this a lot with the tournaments, and this is a shout out to our buddy Rogue, and I shared this with you off air, Nate. He's a champ player. He's very good at the game. He's got a great mind for TCG stuff, but he loves silver. He calls it, he's a big back to basics guy. Jimmy, I know you are too.
Yes.
No,
More back to basics.
Back to
Higher
basics
percentage.
sucks. No. No. But his point is, at silver, it's all about strategy and making tactful decisions. As you climb the ranks, RNG plays a bigger and bigger element in determining the outcome. I would actually like to see that flipped and see bigger RNG on the bottom and more skillful play required at the top. And I think, some of the stuff that we've seen in Conclave Arcana kind of points to that happening. But yeah, my point is, being able to really, I've got a max collection. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy silver. If I could just flip a switch and offer fair competition, if I were to enter into the intermediate leaderboard, I wonder how good I am compared to the UA and the Schnapoon, who are, they are the sharks in the silver waters. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to competitively and fairly see how my skills match up to these guys. Well, right now I can't do that because I've got to wait for them to climb, or I've got to tank my rating, or I've got to hope that I get lucky in tournaments and get matched up with these killers. I look at each respective difficulty level as it's own completely different game. You're going, it's not just like triple A, double A, single A, and major leagues. It's almost like T-ball versus baseball versus some other sports that aren't really necessarily related to baseball, but you know what I mean? Like it's a completely different dynamic. The skill set involved is completely different. The ability set is either far more constrictive or far more expansive, and it makes for I love my silver wild phrase in my brawls. That's my favorite part of
Uh-huh.
Splinterlands right now. I continue to buy. I've bought my first, couple of alpha legendaries at silver level, and it's the
Yes.
competition there is a lot of fun, and it's because it's so different from everything that you experience at the champion level. So I really like the idea of, we were talking about earlier, and your initial response as you were talking through your thought process, Nate, was if you want to be coddled, go to campaign mode, go to XYZ, go somewhere else. Ranked is not the place for you to complain. Well, I'm glad that you kind of revisited that as you were typing through it, because I look at it like, until we get all of these additional game modes, ranked has always been the Splinterlands player bread and butter. And it's evolved to a place where I think we shifted the dial a little too greatly, and I'd like to see it turned back a little bit and turned into a different direction. And I think what you presented and what you proposed, it's simple, it's elegant, and it really embraces each of these different levels as a completely different ballgame, which is exactly how I look at it, and exactly how I think we are going to attract. We can't expect how we're kind of currently rolling things out to, obviously the future is bright, and I'm very bullish on where we're going. I think there's been a series of injections of adrenaline into the community over the last couple of months, and I expect those to continue as we make our way through 2025. But we can't expect how things are currently set up to attract another Vuctus, another Tofu. What we need to do is attract a million small guys, a million guys who are happy with bronze, happy with silver. And the natural byproduct of that is we will find another Tofu. We will find another Fat Jimmy. We will find another, you name it. There's those guys that are going to be born out of that absolutely killer free to play experience, and being able to choose which division you are fairly competing in. So yeah, just my 2 cents there.
Oh, and I value and appreciate your guys' feedback and your perspective, because obviously, just recently I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of a fan. For those of you listening to this, if you're not familiar with what the heck we're talking about, right now I think in challenge mode, tournaments, you have the option to choose your basically your summoner caps. FYI, summoners are going to be known as archons in the near future. But ultimately, I think so. I'm looking at it now. I pulled up the challenge screen. You got five. You got novice, which means that all everything's level one, just level one. So that's all you got. Then adept, intermediate, advanced, all the way up to expert. Expert means max level cards. So yeah, there's five difficulty levels, and that solves a lot of problems. Having that for this, and then also for tournaments. It's no wonder that it's evolved to where that is now in the UI, and that is part of how you play the game in those two game modes. So the more that we introduce those five, what I'm going to call them as difficulty levels, until we come up with a better term. I like the idea of referring to them as difficulty levels, simply because the higher up you go, the more battle rules you have to deal with. You got up to three. The more abilities show up on the cards, the more different strategic decisions you have to juggle. And be that as it may, because you mentioned, hey, there's more RNG. Okay, you got to factor in that too. There's just more variables. Period. So I think that looking at it as difficulty level based upon the number of variables at play is, that's a great way to explain this to a brand new player on their first day. Is like, hey, do you just want to, play the most basic version of Splinterlands, or do you want like everything? which might be a little overwhelming on your first day. How do you want to play this? And then let them decide how ambitious they want to be. But ultimately, yeah, I think that the more we apply these difficulty levels to other game modes and other aspects of the ecosystem, um, that sounds fine by me. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that does solve plenty of issues, and it does present us with even more opportunities that weren't there before. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
It's a brilliant design, I think. Like the way this was originally designed with those level caps and the way cards combine, does thus reducing cards in circulation. It's absolutely brilliant. I really think it was a feature, not a bug. And for, the past year or so, it's been kind of seen as a bug instead of a feature. But it would be really nice to see the that original genius resurfaced and embraced.
Say once we get past Conclave, and we're gonna like internally look at like, hey, what do we do next? So if you're a fan of this and you really want to see more of this applied, then my suggestion is like, hey, if you bring it up now, I'm sorry, we're so busy, like it's not going to get the attention that you're going to want. But as soon as we launch Conclave, the general sale, and we're like, oh my God, glad that's in our rearview mirror, and we're like, okay, what should we do next? Then
More
Fat
explosions.
Jimmy, that's your moment to shine. Then you get on your soapbox and you're like, hey, by
I
all
don't
means,
ask for
have
much.
fun.
I don't ask for much. There's just some things here and there. Kitchen table game mode for all. Always on in-game notification systems. I finally have my red dot when I got to do a brawl. Took 3 years, but it finally happened. 3 years of
Mhm.
screaming. Finally got my red dot. Just a little bit. Doesn't take much, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Really.
My last comment on the leagues discussion is I think a very easy way that I've justified looking at it in the way that I do is we've seen the appetite that has been born out of survival mode. Survival mode has been a lot of fun. It's a different game mode. It's a fresh perspective. I think
Well,
we
stop there. Are you guys very good at survival mode? Because apparently suck. I suck.
uh
Let me see where. Wait, let me look at where I'm at in survival mode here. All right. So we just started the season a few days ago. I'm almost 1,200 cards murdered. My cards have been murdered. 1,200 of them murdered. And guess what league I'm in?
silver.
Bronze.
Bronze 3.
Yep.
I am one fight away from dropping back down a novice. Like, like this is not the mode for me, apparently. So yeah, yeah.
It's
For those of
savage,
you
man.
out there having
It's
fun,
savage.
yeah, like, oh my gosh.
I mean,
But yeah, go on, go
I
on.
will say yeah, quick comment on survival mode, and I've said it the last couple of weeks. The high stakes is it's intense. It's you feel your palms sweating. Nate, you've been long pushing for that emotional investment. While survival mode, it cranks up the
Mhm.
heat, man. It's real. The intensity is definitely there, and if I see like I'm going against Neil Dot Cards, shout out to Neil McSpadden, uh, a guy with 70 million, 60 million CP. If I can knock out a couple of his big hitters, if he brings out a Kitty and or a Lamacron or something like that, and if I can make a dent in his collection, that's that's kind of a feather in my cap, whether or not I win or lose. You know, I'm
Mhm.
I'm I'm taking these cards out of the mix for future players. So that's that's fun.
Yeah,
But let me make one more comment on the league stuff. So the way that I look at it is, we know the power of new game modes. We know the power of having additional utility tacked on to our NFTs, our cards. Well, I think we're overlooking the fact that each individual difficulty, in my mind, represents its own distinct game mode. So I can play a ton of matches in adept. I can play a ton of matches in intermediate. I can play a ton of matches in advanced. And each of those divisions represents a completely different experience. So
It's
we're
a good
we're
point. That's a
we're,
really
we're
good
kind
point.
of overlooking, we can't see the forest through the trees sort of thing. We're looking for these new game modes that are going to be appetizing and satiating to the community. Well, I think we've had them all along, and I think the level system is freaking brilliant. Uh, I think we need to lean into it and just adjust our lens at which we're viewing these things through. So that's my last piece on the league stuff. I think it innately and naturally represents game modes just based on the levels at which you're competing. And it's very, I don't like the term low hanging fruit, but it is very, very low hang, like it's smacking us in the face as we're walking through the forest looking through other stuff. You know what I mean? Like it is right there, and it's freaking ripe. Let's pick that baby and run with it.
Nice.
Mhm.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if the community after Conclave launches come give us the difficulty levels in modern and wild or whatever, and then Matt's like, "What the hell, Nate? What did you say?" Then we'll make our best case for it, and if it gets approved and we're able to spend some time on it, then you're right. Parts of it I think are easy to implement. Other things we probably have to work out, like the logistics and figure out like what about this, what about that. But overall I think it's solvable. I think it's doable. So I guess we'll see how it goes. We'll see
Well,
if it
Nate, hopefully you
becomes a
didn't jinx
priority.
yourself earlier in the episode when you said you've never been told any of your ideas
Yeah.
will be shelved indefinitely and will never happen. Hopefully you
Yeah,
haven't
yeah.
jinxed yourself. But I think there is a lot of value there. So I appreciate you taking the time to provide such a thoughtful response to Jimmy's notorious walls of text in card collectors and elsewhere with such a thoughtful response. So thank you for that.
Sure.
So back to your question about survival mode. I ran the bot yesterday, and I hit at this time yesterday I was in first place on the gold leaderboard. Uh,
What? You're a
22
cheater.
for 20. Well, it's a bot, man. 22 for 28, and I lost 60 cards. I mean, my disadvantage though is that I only have one of each card in a max modern collection. I don't have the depth of four figure cards to lean into. So as soon as I set the bot to run with the lowest parameters, where if it achieves 3 losses in a row, it will auto stop. As soon as it quit running, I went and looked, and of course the cards that got beat were like my Tofu, my Vanka. I'm like, oh
Mm.
shit! Like it was consequential, but I did
So wait,
earn
wait,
like
wait. You
1500
you
SPS
you
in those
got
28
How
matches.
much? How much?
1500.
wow.
How much per match are you getting? Damn.
Uh, it's lucrative, man. Um,
So wait. You have
60
so
SPS.
do you have like two max levels of each of those cards you mentioned, and you reserve one for wild and modern, and you have one set aside for survival, or are you like going all in on survival? You're like, I'm
It's
just I'm putting all my good cards over there.
I ran my whole collection. I didn't, and my whole collection
Oh,
is just one card of or one copy of each card. So
so
the
you're putting all your chips in the middle of the table and say survival mode.
well, I'm trying
Is that right?
I'm trying to find the balance because I think survival mode is a lot of fun, but I don't want to take myself out of the running for things like brawls or all of the tournaments. Some of that stuff I still find a lot of fun, and I still want to compete in ranked. So I'm trying to run it in cycles, and I think the formula that I've worked out is day 1, day 5, day 15, or something, or day 1, day 7, day 15, something like that. Is I will run my collection into the ground in survival mode, pay the price of having cooldown for a couple of days, run the bot in wilds, and let it kind of piece the scraps of my collection together to try and scrap out some wins, try and scrap out a leaderboard spot, maybe earn a little bit of glint along the way. And then by the time I'm fully recovered, I will make a strong push in modern, burn out the rest of my energy, and rinse and repeat. That's kind of the formula that I've nailed down because I
Mhm.
want to enjoy all of this stuff. Uh, but
How long is cooldown for
it
those
depends.
cards? I know they're different.
Yeah, it depends on the card. Commons is 6 days, I think.
Woohoo.
Commons are
How
the
long is your
bottleneck.
tofu? What's your tofu? You get tofu killed. How long does it take to get it back?
Let me tell you. Do you know
And this,
offhand, Nate?
Oh no, I have to find the blog post, and I mean,
And
I yeah.
this is part of why
I think it's
I don't
two
like the
days.
idea of revival potions.
I
I
think it's two
like the
days.
fact that this is high stake. No revival potions. That's
Like
part of the risk is you lose your card, it's dead for a
yeah, I'm
couple
looking at
days.
this level 3 alpha. No wait, this is a beta card. It's a beta Goblin Shaman level 3. It says in the card details, this card's on cooldown. It'll be
Ooh,
available
yeah.
for use in about 14 days.
I think
Oof.
level makes a difference too. Level
Yes, it
makes a
does.
difference.
Yeah.
It
The
does.
higher level, the shorter the cooldown.
Card set has no bearing in survival mode cooldowns.
Ooh.
It only looks at rarity and BCX and foil. And foil. Foil makes a big so
Right.
tofu. I think max legendary cards get depleted for 2 days. Max legendary gold foils get depleted for 1 day. Com so I think it's a 50% reduction when you're playing gold foils. So my gold foil commons would be out of the mix for 3 days, where standard max commons are out of the mix for 6 days. I think is how it works.
Mhm. I like the reset at the end too, because that encourages people to try it. Say, "Ah, you know what? It's a day before end of season. I'm just going to go blast into survival mode and see how it goes."
Yeah, originally I was kind of torn on that because it feels like it's a little bit of an exploit that there's the hard refresh on all your card cooldowns at the end of the season. But if there's no revival potions, I think what you're saying, Jimmy, is a big win for the community. It encourages, for a fact, you're kind of risk versus reward, right? Like if I'm willing to risk it early in the season for survival at the risk of losing my cards for every other aspect of the game, yes, I'm going to be more heavily rewarded, but also all of my rewards are confined to survival mode. Whereas if you're playing ranked, you're playing tourneys, you're playing brawls, and you're waiting until the last 24, 48 hours before you indulge in survival mode, well, you're forfeiting any access to the hefty survival mode rewards, but you know for a fact that you're going to get that big cooldown across all your cards at the end of the season. So I don't know what I think we
Mhm.
do have some tinkering to do on what does survival mode look like long term, but I love that it's been so well embraced, and I love that I was proven wrong. I was very concerned about survival mode being, oh man, all the bots with all their soulbound card armies are coming back on, and they're just gonna put more downward pressure on SPS. Well, we haven't seen that, and instead it's been a lot of freaking fun. So, yeah,
Nice.
yeah. All right, Nate, let's
So,
talk. We were talking about survival mode and the difference of cooldowns between gold foil and regular foil. I was going to see if we could possibly get some alpha from Nate. And what are you guys thinking in terms of black foil? I mean, I would assume that there's going to be a more substantial utility that's tied to an incredibly scarce foil in the game.
Yeah, there's a lot of internal discussion about that, and I think some decisions have been made, and I'm gonna have to defer to Blaze because he is the guy now. So I'm gonna let him determine when that kind of information is released and how and when. But I'm guessing it's likely going to be in whenever he publishes the announcement post for Conclave, which has been drafted up. And in fact, I handed him the header image for that blog post today, yesterday, whatever. So I don't know. We're just
Sweet.
trying to get our ducks in a row before we finally publish that. There's a few things lingering that we want included in the post, and unfortunately, creative might be the bottleneck on at least one or two of those things. So we're working furiously to try to get Blaze what he needs so he can stick it in the post and then he can publish it and then like yay and then because everyone in Discord keeps asking right like, hey, when's Conclave coming out? Or like questions like what you just asked about the black foil and stuff like that. Like we want to get that out there as soon as possible. We're almost there. I promise. We're almost there.
Well, I feel like the tagline that Dave and Blaze have been kind of heralding for Conclave Arcana is the chase is real. Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't feel like you come up with a tagline like that unless there is, Black Foil is cool, but I fully expect some very cool utility that's unique to Black Foils to be a part of. Why is this chase compelling? Why should you, get on your track shoes and chase this sucker down? Well, I guess it remains to be seen. Okay,
Yeah.
let's follow your instinct there, Jimmy. Let's go.
Campaign mode. Let's hear it.
All right. What do you want to
I
know
guess.
about? What do you
Oh,
want to know
so I
about
mean,
campaign mode?
well, you've had this whole idea for a while. So
Oh yeah.
I'm assuming it's kind of works into the player tutorial. It seems to be interrelated, interconnected there. Um, how's it coming? Where's it at? Oh, no timeline, but obviously it's not going to be tomorrow. Is it going to be, this year or,
Yeah.
just generally speak like with campaign mode? Because we've seen some pictures. It sounds really cool. It sounds really engaging, and I think that's one of the main things we need for bringing new players in is that engagement, that
Yeah.
interaction.
So campaign mode is that is a baby that creative has been nurturing for a while now. The campaign mode is part of what creative has invested a lot of time and energy in. We're very emotional about it. We're like, hey, we really want this to see the light of the day, not just see the light of day, but see the light of day as intended, to be because we talked about before, a soulful experience and how the game has kind of been lacking that a little bit. And what better way to introduce a soulful experience than with a PvE, with a player versus environment type of game mode? So if you guys go back in history and look at a town hall over a year ago, at the beginning of 2024, this is after a few months after the transition to the CEO role. Matt is coming into his own. At the end of 2023, Matt came to me and we had a one-on-one talk about like, hey, what's going on with creative? What do you guys want to see happen? What's going on? And I pitched him. I pitched him hard, on like, hey, here's all the stuff. It's kind of like when you become, when you become president of the United States and you get all the secrets, presumably about aliens and Roswell and JFK and all the stuff, right? Like I'm like, okay, well, here's all the stuff that maybe you don't know about, all the stuff we want to do, all the stuff that maybe Aggro knew about, and he like, I don't know, but like, here, let me show you, blah, and I showed him all this stuff. And he's like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, a lot of this, the work is it's done already. We've been working on this for like the last year or two, and now it's sitting there ready to go. We just gotta like, let's put a bow on it, man. Let's go. And Matt was like, okay, you want to share this on a town hall? And I'm like, whoa, that means he's committing to this. He's like he thinks it's a great idea. I was like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, heck yeah. And so town hall beginning of 2024, I shared what creative has been calling Project Battle Mage. And that is essentially the whole objective of Project Battle Mage was to kind of inject that soulful experience. Um, and why do I want a soulful experience? Why do I want PvE? Why do I want to do this stuff? Besides above and beyond just like I'm a creative guy and I want to see lore and all this other stuff. I mean, I think it's a foundational part of game design. It's something that's important for us to be able to do as an ecosystem. Um, for UX, and this is something I've talked about internally with the team, there are things that are called intrinsic motivators, and there are things called extrinsic motivators. The difference being that an intrinsic motivator is something that you do because you find joy in it. That's it. There's an innate joy that comes from doing the action, and that you have no other ulterior motive for doing it other than it brings you joy. And ultimately, the more we can lean into intrinsic motivators for our game, the more likely that we're going to acquire and increase retention, but also that the players will no longer see themselves as speculators or fair weather friends based on the market activity, or they'll see themselves as more than just players. They will see themselves as battle mages and act accordingly. So, and then you have extrinsic motivators, which is what most games lean into by default, which is like, hey, we'll give you something if you play the game. And sometimes it's for Web3, it's like tokens. Hey, we'll give you tokens. Come play the game and we'll give you tokens. Or Web2 games will be, we'll give you points. We'll give you ratings. We'll give you prizes, digital skins. We'll give you this, that, and the other. But ultimately, extrinsic is like, hey, do the thing, not because you find joy in it, but because we're going to get something out of it. Intrinsic is you don't need any of that. You just do it because it's you find happiness and joy in it. It's soulful, right? And so when I look at and a case could be said, you know what? I'm gonna keep rambling on about UX for just a second longer. The case could be said that you lean too heavily in extrinsic motivators, then it does result in what's called the overjustification effect. The overjustification effect is basically when an external reward is given to us as players for performing an action, we subconsciously, I gotta emphasize that, we subconsciously attribute any enjoyment as being derived from the reward rather than the action itself, which means in layman's terms that if you are offered money to do something you like, then the thing you like you're going to like less and less. Whether it's because of opportunity cost, because the thing you liked is now perceived as a chore, because now you want to get the thing, the incentive, the reward, the points, the money, whatever. If you like fishing because it brings you peace and enjoyment, and some guy offers you $5 for each fish you catch, and you say, "Oh yeah, I love fishing, so I'm going to love making money for doing something I love," and then pretty soon you dislike fishing after a year or so of doing this because it doesn't bring you the same joy, and you wonder why. It's because you're given some external reward for doing it. And so we have to be careful, right? That we have to maintain that balance. UX wise, it's important in game design that you don't lean too heavily on financial reward. Otherwise, things get a little imbalanced. And so when I see Project Battle Mage, I see a way to right the ship. I see a way to find that balance back, the balance in the force, for Star Wars. It's like, so at the beginning of 2024, we had this town hall and we went over Project Battle Mage, and Project Battle Mage was quite a bunch of stuff. And one of those things was the PvE story mode, which turned into campaign mode. Uh, and part of it was custom avatars, player housing, reputation system, skins, which have now evolved into glamours, a whole bunch of stuff, right? I just go like, blah! I spilled a whole bunch of stuff. And all of it, the sole objective of all of this stuff was intrinsic value, a soulful experience by which the player no longer was concerned with how much SPS can I earn per survival mode battle, but it became like, hey, I'm entering the world of Pretoria. This is who I am. I'm an elf or I'm a dwarf. I'm B. Jangles of the Grimbardoon Kingdom, and I am here to, gain glory and fame. And the people are chanting, and you win the trophy, and you bring it back to your house, and you place it on the mantle. And the next time someone looks at your profile, they're seeing your apartment. They're seeing the trophy on the wall. They're seeing your accomplishments, and they're singing your praises. And maybe, if you gain reputation high enough with the goblins, they sell you a special hat, and you're wearing this hat, and people are like, "How did you get that hat?" Because at the beginning of each battle, it's like this guy versus this guy, and here's B. Jangles with this weird goblin hat, and everyone's wondering, "Where did you get that? How did you get that?" Well, I'm, allied with the goblins. They love me. How did you get in? How did the goblins love you? Well, I went and did these missions for them in where? In the campaign mode, in the story mode, whatever. So there's this huge infrastructure of things that creative would love to do, and hopefully we do get to do them someday. Um, and but part of that project Battle Mage was campaign mode, the story mode that we wanted to do. And fast forward a year and some months later, and we're finally this close to like, hey, not just talking about it, it's like look, we're going to launch with it. We're gonna make it part of our marketing. We're gonna onboard people into the system. Um, and so when they get onboarded into the campaign mode, it's like they're and we got these beautiful cutscenes. I can't wait for people to see these cutscenes. They're beautiful. Um, Fully animated with voice acting and all the stuff, right? It feels like a game. It feels like a game, not just a digital spreadsheet, not like a transfer of tokens and allocations and economic decisions and all the stuff. It's like it feels like a soulful game. And the story basically has you in a wagon going to the academy. You got to fight a bear, and then you get to the academy, and you're learning as you go. The chapters that we're introducing with campaign mode are good and bad. They're bad in that they're just tutorials. But we're trying to make it as entertaining as possible as you're going through these tutorials. And we are adding a sprinkle of extrinsic motivation because we're saying, hey, have fun with the tutorial because at the end of each chapter we're going to give you some stuff, some foundation cards. And you're like, yeah, and then whatever foundation cards you win on the first chapter you're going to use on the second chapter, and then you're going to win more foundation cards, and guess what, you're going to take the cards you won from first chapter and second chapter and you're going to need those cards to use in chapter 3. And so each stage along as you go along, you're progressing, and you feel that progression. You feel it intrinsically, soulfully. You're also feeling it extrinsically because you're building your collection up on your first hour of playing Splinterlands. And then by the time you've gone through about a dozen of these chapters, you're being celebrated. You won some battles. You built a small collection that you could be proud of. And you had fun along the way, and you haven't even been exposed to ranked play. You haven't even touched ranked play. Ranked play is not even something you've heard about yet. You're just as far as a new player is concerned, campaign mode is the game. That's the game. You're playing the game. You're not watching a tutorial so you can learn how to play ranked play. Instead, you are literally just learning and having fun as you go in this game mode. And then, after maybe a dozen chapters, maybe at that point we might introduce you like, hey, guess what? You unlocked rank play. Or maybe rank play doesn't need to be unlocked, but it's there. Let's introduce you to it. Go over there and try it out, a little bit or whatever. So that's probably, for those of you who haven't heard about campaign mode yet, that's my quick, rough and dirty summary of how we got there.
I wouldn't say quick.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I do talk a lot.
Rough
So,
and dirty, I like. So
yeah.
you mentioned earlier on that like when you first, when we first saw it on Town Hall, that was because it was ready to put a bow on it and put out there. So like obviously it's evolved since that first iteration. Where does it stand right now? Is it 10% done, 20% done?
Well, keep in mind
70% done?
the original story mode, which I don't know if Joey's mentioned this or not. He probably has, but the original story mode was intended to be Rebellion, and it was all those little cutscenes you saw for the conflicts. That was story mode. Basically, Joey had huge documents and spreadsheets and specifications so that you could, when the Rebellion set was launched, that you'd be able to buy these campaign modules, and you would be a battle mage in the first person, having dialogue with the inhabitants of Pretoria and taking part in the story of the rebellion. So you would start off in a tavern, and there'd be the dwarf guy, and then away you would go on this adventure, and you'd be talking to people, you would be increasing your reputation, you'd be winning stuff, and then you would wait maybe a few weeks later, and then a new module would show up, and then you would take part in a linear story throughout the entire course of the Rebellion set being sold, all the way from when it's first being sold in packs to finally the sale is over, and that's when the big finale happens, and the big finale of the story. What ended up happening is because we didn't introduce story mode way back then, We said we don't want to throw this work away. This is good stuff. So we ended up a lot of it hit the cutting room floor. We streamlined it, we condensed it, and then we turned it into these little video clips that you see at the beginning of each conflict, so that you can get a taste. It's just a tiny taste of what could have been, what could have been a first-person PvE experience with campaign mode.
I mean,
So,
it sounds like it still could be, right? Like something like that seems timeless. Like if you want to go back and do the Rebellion
true.
interactive
No, yeah,
experience.
for sure. We could always, if if campaign mode takes off in the way we hope it does, then yeah, we could always blow the dust off all that stuff, and we could be like, hey, we had all these ideas. Can we just retroactively say, hey, I want to go back in time and relive the moments
And
of rebellion
recreate, yeah,
in story
and
mode
create
fashion?
retroactively. Like even let's Star Wars it up, man. Say, hey, I want to go to Untamed, and you guys could go back now and write the lore for Untamed, and make that something that the player can dive into and experience in that first person experience.
No, for sure. So right now, I would say that campaign mode. Now Matt did go and look at what we did, and he was like, "Guys, this is this is a bit much." And so he he didn't rip it apart, but he took a lot of stuff out, and he said, like, "Hey, why don't we just, it's a tutorial." I'm like, "Well, not permanently, right? It's like long term. It's going to be." He said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's going to be story mode. You guys are going to have your chance to really dig into the lore and do everything you want to do. But for the tutorial chapters, for the parts where they're learning, let's just quick and easy, little bite-sized pieces. Let's just do that." And we're like, "Okay, all right." So we took a bunch of dialogue and a bunch of storytelling out, and then we just really condensed it down to its basic fundamental building blocks, and then we made each of those a chapter. um, and we saw some of it on test server internally, like it's gotten that far along to where we saw chapters on our internal test servers. We're testing out to make sure that the opponent battles and the player battles are balanced and working properly, so that the player wins when they're supposed to, or if they don't make the team quite right, then they're supposed to lose. We got to show them and teach them and give them another chance to try again, do it the right way this time. So we have to get all those pieces working just right. But the script, Joey did a slam dunk on trying to identify all the different things we want a new player to learn on their first day, how to integrate those immersively into these chapters. All the scripts are done, all the artwork's done, it's basically at this point just uh, making sure it's implemented properly, tested, make sure it works right, refine it, and then get it out as quickly as we can. So, I mean, I see progress. I see it happening. The goal is to get it out in conjunction with Conclave, so that when we do
Nice.
marketing, that people can be onboarded
That would be
properly.
amazing. You mentioned that, the foundation cards are worked in. Is the foundation set complete? Like, do you guys have a foundation set with artwork and stats and abilities?
So it's funny because we have never done so much with so few people. Like in the entire history that I've been with the company, I could say with absolute no hesitation or anything. It's like, yes, I have never seen us do so freaking much in so little time and with so few people and resources. So it really speaks to the passion of the team. How are we able to juggle this many balls? I mean, it still boggles my mind because trying to create a new set is is huge. Like Conclave Arcana saying, "Hey, we're going to make a new set." Usually that is like that takes up all the team's resources. It takes up all our time. There's so much artwork to do, so much balancing, so many assets to make because you need card back, you need pack opening scenes, you need logo, you need this, you need that. Just a ton of work. And so we said, well, Matt said, and we all agreed, like, "Okay, Matt, whatever you want, we'll figure it out." He goes like, "Okay, we want to do a set, but you know what? let's make 2 sets. We're like, what?
Why
What?
not? Why not?
So then we're like, okay, because 1 set wasn't enough work. That's usually like just like enough to just like bring the whole all the team's resources are come to bear just to make 1 set. But no, now we're gonna make two. We're gonna make two, and then the creative has to make another pack opening, another card back, another this, all the same stuff. It's not like oh, foundations is any easier. No, it's like you need all the balancing, you need maybe even more testing because this is like the really important. This is really important. This is like these cards have to be really I mean, these are the new player
Yeah, it's
cards.
what's
This is
pulling people in.
yeah.
This is the first experience these players are
So
going to get. These are the cards they're going to be playing with right out of the gates.
yeah, so we got Conclave, then we got Foundations. Hey, why not? Let's throw a campaign mode in there while we're at it. Like what? So then we're trying to do that too. And then on top of everything else, we're trying to do all these other things, which I don't even know if I can talk about. But
Yes,
there's
you can.
we got layers and layers and layers of not little projects, big, massive projects, all running in parallel, all at the same time. And it's nuts. It's freaking crazy. But to the team's credit, I mean, no one is stopping and like everyone I wouldn't blame them if they were all in fetal positions right now just rocking themselves asleep just crying because it's just so much pressure but no I mean the team is so full of passionate people that's like do or die man like we're gonna do whatever we gotta do so so no, it's crazy. It's a little stressful at times, but it's also amazing because we're all doing it because we love it, and we're all stakeholders, and we're all players, and we're all building something together that we want to play ourselves. So it's like, yeah, it's amazing.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I love that, the theme of this episode kind of feels like, it takes a village across the board, and you guys, continue to call out non-solicited the fact that you guys have managed to put together this amazing team, and it's attracted an amazing community, and together I think we're bound for beautiful things. Nate, when you were talking about campaign mode, and thank you for associating me with the Grimbar and I will happily wear that badge. Have you guys taken it a step further and looked at, like, if I select and I build my avatar, and I select to be a part of the Grimbar race? Well, Conclave Arcana is leading into racial synergies. Have you guys thought, like, how do I connect the dots between the Battle Mage and, maybe a select race within the battles themselves? Like, do I have access to, some sort of exclusive maybe item or spell through land, or through some unique synergy based upon the race of the avatar? Have you guys thought that far down the track yet?
I mean, as you can imagine, there's been a million ideas thrown all over the place as to what the future could look like. And um, unfortunately, I mean, there's nothing that we've committed to. We've not, as a company, or Matt hasn't said approved anything that I could speak to with great confidence. But I can say that, yeah, there's always ideas. Like, for example, when Tactics was introduced in the last set. Um, I had suggested that instead of tactics, I had suggested the beginnings of a battle mage skill tree. I said, well, how about instead of doing this, what if we did this and then we, debate the pros and cons or whatever. I mean, I would still love to see that idea come to fruition at someday. I would love for there to be a day someday where you register to play the game. Um, and it says, okay, well, who are you? What do you mean who I am? Let's find out. And then you choose your race, you choose your eye color, your hair, your appearance, your nose. You want a big nose, you want a small nose, you want a big beard, you want a long beard, you want to wear a hat, you want to do this, you want to do that. By the time you're done, you've built yourself a persona in the Splinterlands world, and you're like, by the time you're done making that avatar, I don't know about you, I loved RPGs growing up and whatnot, and I would spend so long just making my avatar. Like that was a big deal to me. Some people like, I'll just automatically generate whatever the computer gives me and go on with my day. But I was one of those people who could spend hours, like just like, oh, this is who I want to be, right? By the time you're done, you haven't even started playing the game. But for those who do appreciate that kind of experience, not only is it soulful, but you are emotionally invested before you even play the game. Now, let me take a step further. What if we allow them to not choose a Hive wallet as their persona name, but a custom fantasy name? Like you get to choose to be, whatever fantasy name floats your boat. And then, yes, you have a Hive wallet associated to your account, but it's not your identity in the Splinterlands. No, it's whatever fantasy name you come up with, and here's your avatar. And by the time you're done making the name and the avatar, the next step is you're on a wagon on your way to the academy, watching these cutscenes, fighting a bear, using enchanted cards. This is like no other card game experience that you've ever had. Where, Hearthstone, it's like, oh, choose a card, turn by turn, Magic the Gathering. Take your pick of a million different card games where you're just like, okay, it's strategy, it's mental stimulation. It's like you're missing that soulful experience that and I'm so excited. I hope one day we get there. I hope one day. I don't think it's that far off because when Dave came on board, I was telling Dave the same thing I told Matt like a year ago. Like we got so much of this already sitting on the shelf. Like just let us do it. like it's there. It's ready to go. So yeah, I'm excited for when the day comes where I finally get the thumbs up and the green light. We're like, yes, doing it. Um, because yeah, to me, that's where it's at. To me, it's like, yeah, being able to do that. So to answer your question, is a long wind. I guess everything I do is long-winded, isn't it? Um, Ultimately, I want to introduce also, in addition to those things I already mentioned, I want to introduce a reputation system. Um, I want people to be familiar with, like you said, Grimbardoon, the kingdom of Grimbardoon. Well, who are they? Oh, they're made up of these dwarves from the mountains or whatever, and they love to craft and do these things. And you familiarize yourself with, oh, they're not just dwarf. It's like, oh, they're dwarves. No, they're Grimbardoon dwarves. There's all kinds of different dwarves. There's a bunch of clans and factions and kingdoms made up of dwarves. But the Grimbardoon dwarves are a special flavor of dwarf. They have a specific culture, a specific identity, a specific political standings and ideologies that are different than, let's say, these other dwarves over here, right? Who set themselves on fire and blow themselves up or whatever. They're crazy. We don't talk to those dwarves. So the being able to associate yourself not only with a race, but also with a particular geopolitical faction, a splinter. Wow, that'd be powerful. And then once you affiliate yourself as such, then okay, you have to ask yourself, what other factions in the world, because I'm affiliated with Grimbardoon, which factions like me, and now which ones despise me because of that affiliation? And how does that impact my journey through campaign mode or through the world of Pretoria as I interact with these other inhabitants? Will that impact what I do? Am I going to want to go out of my way to increase my faction or reduce my faction with any particular splinter so that I can get what I want to get, so that goblin merchant talks to me and gives me the fancy hat, or so that I can do this, that, or the other? So there's a lot of cool ideas that are simmering that maybe aren't baked all the way, or maybe they are, and they're just waiting for the day where we get approval to implement. So, I wish I could say, oh, yeah, these things are happening for sure, or hey, this is happening quarter 3 of this year, or whatever. I mean, I can't say those things, but I can say that we have thought about them, we have talked about them, and some of them are just waiting to be unleashed. Like, it's not in the planning stages, it's well beyond the planning stages.
Yeah, and how would that link to a simple tutorial? Like if this is such a huge thing, if right now, we have a community member created tutorial. Is there any company tutorial coming down the pipe, or an advancement of what we have now?
Basically, whatever we have now would be replaced with campaign mode. So essentially,
Okay.
let's say a new player on day one has a question for support, and they say, "Hey, what the heck is a spell book?" Or how do I use what the heck are Archon cards? How do I use them in team build? Which are summoner cards, which we're renaming, or whatever question they have. The beauty of the campaign mode is that the support representative could simply say, "Oh, go click on this button and then click on chapter 13." Chapter 13 not only has the answers for you, but by going through that chapter and getting the answers organically, you're also going to be rewarded with some foundation cards or whatever. Like, not only are they getting the answers to their question, but instead of just reading an article or watching a YouTube video or a how-to, they're actually being immersed in the lore. They're feeling more like a battle mage. They're getting their question answered. They're being rewarded with foundation cards or glance or otherwise, and they're getting
Well, it
more
sounds great.
emotionally. Yeah, they're getting more
Yeah,
emotionally invested in the game.
it sounds like
So
something we're in need of, that we've been waiting for a long time, and it should do wonders for improving retention, I would
definitely,
think.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Let's wind it down, gentlemen. We kept you long enough, Nate.
So before
Beautiful.
we wrap up, just to know how, like, this is a very exciting episode here for many reasons, but also about 15 minutes ago, Jangles put a little note in the chat and said, "Earthquake, guys, be right back." Lowdown.
Oh,
What happened? What was this earthquake?
I didn't
Are
even
you
see
okay?
the chat. So you just had
Yeah,
an earthquake?
we just had an earthquake. Yeah, first time for everything. First time it's happened on an
Wow.
episode, that's for sure. I mean, it's just part of living here. It's pretty normal. They don't get any easier. They're all equally terrifying. Some are 5 seconds, some are 35 seconds.
Wait, where are you at?
Taiwan.
Taiwan.
There's been
So
some heavy earthquake in that part of the world recently. I mean,
There was
geez, the
just the
past few
big boy
days.
in Myanmar that is it
Mhm.
continued like I continue to get updates that it was more and more devastating than initially thought.
wow.
Yeah.
I lived most of my life in California and we had some earthquakes, but I wonder if are the earthquakes more severe over where you're at?
I'm sure as soon as Azurkhan hears this episode, he's gonna send me the geological tectonic plate report. As much as I get terrified of earthquakes and because there's not much I can do, right? Like I just
Stand in the
you
doorway.
yeah. I mean the architecture in a lot of these buildings is just it's not technologically advanced enough. I don't know if I would trust that. But as much fear as I feel, I think Azurkhan finds joy in it just because he's a geologist. He loves all that stuff, and he's gonna show me all the science behind it. Um, but yeah, all good. It also I wasn't gonna disclose this. It's an also a first. It's my birthday today. So
Happy
What?
birthday!
yeah, thanks, man.
Do-do-do-do-do-do. Chicka, chicka, chicka.
Nice.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I wasn't gonna disclose it, but earthquake. We're having first here,
Earthquake,
so why not? I'll share
birthday.
it. It's my
Are you going to
birthday.
disclose your age as well?
I turned 40 today.
Wow.
Yeah,
Woo!
it's a big
You
number. I've been teasing my
that's a
family that
milestone.
that's a
That's a
milestone.
milestone.
Yeah, it's a
Are
big
you
year for a lot of reasons. That is one of them. But at the end of the day, it's just a number. I certainly don't feel 40. I'll tell you that much. It's weird
Well, you sure look it,
acknowledging.
but no. No, I'm kidding, of course. I'm kidding. Hey, also, if this was like the 1700s, you'd be well past your life expectancy.
Oh, well,
So
that's
well,
another
there's
thing
encouraging.
to
that.
think about. Yeah.
So these are his
Bam.
bonus
So
years. Is
you're
that what you're
raising.
saying?
Yeah,
I'm
see?
entering the sunset years. Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. Oh man. Well,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I completely agree, Jimmy. Exciting episode for a whole lot of reasons. Nate, absolute pleasure hosting you, man. I really look forward to seeing, not just it's going to be a very big next 4, 6, 8 weeks as you guys, start to put bows on the various things that are tied to Conclave Arcana, but beyond that, game modes and campaign stuff, and how does creative continue to kind of productively flex its muscle as Splinterlands expands, and hopefully we're welcoming in a whole slew of new players to appreciate what you guys have built over the years. And um I'm freaking excited, man, in a way that I haven't been in a long time. One more milestone. I just passed a 500,000 SPS. Uh,
Nice.
Particularly proud
Woo!
of that one. Yeah. So
Bam. That's a
yeah,
good one.
yeah.
That's a $500,000 in the near future.
Yeah,
One of
yeah.
these
It's
days.
funny we say that because when I look at SPS, I do look at it in terms of a dollar. Like I don't know. Maybe that's unreasonable. Maybe it's
You're
like,
not the only one, man. There's multiple community members who actually think that way, I've discovered.
um so yeah, like if you said like, should I sell some SPS? I'm like, what are you talking about? These are dollars. Why would I sell it for pennies? It doesn't make any sense to me. So, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That's always how I've looked at it. But yeah,
Well,
I and
there's Nate. I don't know if you've heard it, but there's been a little bit of a phrase that's kind of caught on the last couple of episodes. I think I heard Matt Clark say it. I've heard Dave say it. We've said it. We shared it with Dwayne Infidel a couple of weeks ago, a couple of episodes ago. If we hit a dime, we hit a dollar, and I think the logic makes sense. It's bundled up in this nice, catchy, 1-2 punch.
yeah,
But the science behind it, the maths, right? Like it does work. So I'm with you. I don't look at SPS as fractions of a penny. I don't look at the account value there. I'm looking at total volume. And I'm looking at, how much of that stuff can I stack? I'm shooting for 7 figures. We will see.
nice.
Yeah.
No,
Yep.
hope you
And it's
get
the
there.
this is the time.
And I
We're in
hope
the,
you
we're
get
in the
there
goal.
before. I mean, you said it's an earthquake, but I'm sorry. Based on where you live, I'm pretty confident that those were kaiju. So you're living on, yeah, Fat Jimmy might be right. It might be on borrowed time. And if ours Ezra says, yeah, the Richter scale and the tectonic plates and all that, it's like, no, 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 I know better. It's Godzilla. It's there's some monsters that are gonna come rampaging onto the surface. It's just a
Yeah,
matter
I
of
mean,
time. So
you've got what's that leak over in Japan, that radioactive leak since the tsunami? That hasn't stopped. And isn't that how Godzilla was formed, by
yes,
radiation?
exactly.
Yep.
See,
So bam.
Fat Jimmy knows
Yeah.
his science.
Oh, yes.
Science. Science.
The kaiju. They're coming.
They're coming.
All right, guys. Well, Nate, but before we put on the final concluding statements, anything you want to get off your chest?
No, other than if you're listening to this, then then yeah, we appreciate you as much as maybe you appreciate us. I think we're all in this together. As B Jangles has said several times during this podcast, it's like, it takes a village, and just it's just cool to see. I think we have something special that most game communities don't have. And I think that specialness, that secret sauce that we have, is about to pay off. Um, as soon as this next set, I mean, that's the sentiment. I mean, when you think about the sentiment that we've had our ups and downs over the last few sets, and we've gone from euphoria to extreme salt to hesitant, hopeful but reserved to, I don't know. Like when I go in Discord, when I see social media, when I interact with anybody, whether it's a team, the community, or otherwise, I feel like we can all agree the sentiment is, it's different. It's changing. And maybe it's because Rebellion is holding their value, or maybe it's because of fill in the blank, or because Land 1.75 just got released, or whether it's because the validator nodes network is up and running, or whether it's because I feel like there was a year or so where people kept going, win, win, win. This is taking too long. And then suddenly, I haven't heard that for a while. what I've heard is like people trying to catch up, people being like, oh man, I don't want to miss out. I'm seeing new people pop in Discord saying, hey, can you guys give me advice on this and that? Like the winds of change, I think we can all feel it. I think it's like we're all holding our breath and saying, is this it? Is it about to happen? And it's like, we haven't even spent the marketing dollars yet. We're like, holy crap. Like, I don't know. It should be an exciting ride, right? And not an exciting ride like down the road, like in the very near future, like in the next month or two. Like, yeah, this should be an adventure. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to do it with all of you guys.
Hell yes. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on this ride. And Dave was on a couple of episodes back, and he equated, and it's not the first time, but most recent time I've heard it, he equated to, our place in like the timeline. We're still in warm-ups, right? Like we're just getting started. And Nate, you just very eloquently put all of that in a nice, clever package and well worded, and couldn't have said it better myself, man. So thank you for that. And the feeling is mutual, man. I think most community members who have stuck around through thick and thin are kind of waiting with bated breath. We're all cautiously optimistic, and it feels like it's been very, very gradual bits and pieces here, and then all of a sudden, bam, we're in the thick of it, and we're on the cusp of something huge, and it feels like we're there. So here's to 7 more. Let's do this thing.
Heck yeah. Oh, and happy birthday. And I hope Kaiju doesn't eat you.
I've got my dog's ferocious, man. She's got my back. All 40 pounds of her. All right, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We will catch you next week. We will be back this time next week, per usual. In the meantime, you have been listening to
The Mustache Report. No, I'm kidding. Sticking with tradition. The People's Guild.
Yeah.
Welcome to the People's Guild.
Splinterlands. Pretoria.
For guests all across the mythical land of Pretoria, tune in.
Come in.
Welcome to the People's Guild. Another week, another guest.
Pretoria. Pretoria. Tune in. Come in.
Welcome to the People's Guild. Another week, another guest.